Whether it's face-to-face or online, people are generally a very busy group. We communicate with the people around us in several different ways. Whether we walk past them on the street, we see them at school, we wave hello. We are always in constant communication. One of the biggest ways that people communicate in today's society is through technology, through social media. We spend a large portion of our time scrolling Facebook, sending text messages, watching YouTube videos, tweeting various things every single day. Because of this dependence that we have on our technology, on our phones, on whatever device we use day to day, I was prompted to conduct an experiment. So I reached out to 3 people that I know, 3 people that I trust, and I asked them to participate in this 2-day experiment. On the first day, I asked them to simply log everything they did over a 24-hour period. That's all they had to do that first day. But on the second day, it was a little bit trickier. I asked them to not use any technology, no phone, no TV, no radio, nothing. And as on the first day, they had to log their experiences, what they did throughout the day. But if they used their phone, if they watched TV, if they went to the movies, if they used any sort of technology, they had to log that. And if they used technology, that was a cheat. And I asked them to log their cheats and tell me how they felt about it. Did you feel silly for using your phone when you weren't supposed to? Did you feel bad? Did you not care? I asked them to tell me these things. All 3 participants noted that there was at least a little bit of a challenge to the second day. Let's take a look at what my first participant, Kelly, had to say.
Day 1, just logging my activities was kind of interesting, just to look back and see what most of my days entail, because they're pretty much all the same. That day I didn't have any difficulty or issues doing that. It was kind of fun. Day 2, without my phone, I did have my phone, I just wasn't on it, using it like I usually do, so it wasn't very hard in the mornings getting ready. I'm not usually on my phone anyway, and then when I get to work, I'm not really on my phone, so I didn't really find a lot of difficulty there. A couple times I would pick it up and stop myself from clicking on Facebook or whatever, but on my lunch break that day, I did have a couple missed phone calls that kind of gave me anxiety, because it made me wonder if they were important. Am I missing out on something? So that kind of gave me anxiety a little bit, and I did end up calling one of those people back later, and it turned out to be important, so I guess it's kind of good that I used my phone, but it did kind of show me how much I rely on phones instead of face-to-face interactions, so kind of silly that it gives me anxiety not being able to use it, but kind of the times, I guess. Kind of sad. Later that night, I actually cheated again and turned on Amazon Prime to watch a show, not really thinking about that being cheating, because I guess, I don't know, because I was on TV and not on my phone, so I kind of felt silly about that, but all in all, that's my media blackout challenge.
Day 1 for Kelly was very easy for her. She didn't have anything to worry about, but on the second day, on her blackout day, she did have a little bit of a struggle. She had some anxiety because at work she missed some phone calls, and according to the challenge, the experiment, she was not allowed to check her phone or call these people back. And having some missed calls and being unable to return them gave her some anxiety because she thought, what if this is important? What if I'm missing out on something? And she did end up calling them back later throughout the day, so that was a little cheat for her. And at the end of the day, she did watch a show online, so that was another cheat for her. But she did surprisingly well, only having those 2 instances where she used technology. But that shows that people are attached to their technology. People become anxious whenever they aren't able to use their phone, when they aren't able to talk to people over their phone, over the internet, over whatever communication form they use. When we are forced to talk to each other face to face, when we're forced to do everything in person, we become anxious, we become scared. Now let's move on to my second participant, Christian.
I was able to really see the kind of work that I do on my phone. With tracking it, I was able to see that I do use it a lot. Whenever I'm a driver, I normally listen to podcasts a lot, and I also need it for GPSing. So without it, I don't know what I would do. When I went to the Blackout time, I was not driving. I was not in my job that day. I was with Danielle that day, and we spent a lot of the day together, and I was very curious. This would be the only way of saying things. I would ask questions, I would look around, I would poke at things, look at things, talk to people. I would do all the things that phones pretty much make you not do. So, yeah, I didn't really cheat very much at all. But other than that, I think it was enlightening.
It should be noted here that Christian has ADHD, so naturally he is very wired, very hyper, very distracted, and it became very apparent to him that his technology is sort of a crutch. Without it, he is even more so distracted, he has trouble focusing, he just goes very off topic very, very easily. As he said, I was with him that day, and he cheated more than he let. He spent a lot of time in front of the TV, and though that's not a social media outlet, it's not a way of communicating, it's still technology, and so he was not able to completely give that up. So he did cheat more than he lets on. Now let's move on to my third and final participant in this experiment, Willow.
I was not a fan of this no phone whole ordeal. I'll admit that. I struggled with it. I think it's weird now that we live in a society where our lives revolve around technology, and going without it for a day seems nearly impossible now. And I also don't agree with how we shame people for it, because you wouldn't shame somebody for driving a car or using electricity. So why would you shame somebody for using their phone or the internet or stuff like that? I definitely would not want to do this again, and I struggled really, really hard with it, but it was kind of a neat experience to see how dependent I really am on technology, and kudos for anybody who can go a full day or, even a week without it, because I definitely could not.
Willow admitted that she struggled with the blackout portion of this experiment. However, what she had to say about it, I found pretty interesting. She said that we shouldn't shame people for using technology. We shouldn't shame them for using their phones or tweeting or doing whatever people do with technology. Today, we are a very technology-driven society. And though this experiment was made to see if we can live without technology, I think it's very important to note that we don't have to. We live in a society where the norm is to get on your phone, to send a text message, to scroll through Facebook. The norm is to use technology, and when people don't use technology every day, they are considered weird. It is so normalized now to, sit at the bus stop and scroll through Facebook. It is normal to go out to dinner with your significant other or with a friend or with parents and spend the entire time on your phone rather than actually communicate with the people that you were there with. That has become such a folkway in today's society. We are expected to use technology for everything. In conclusion, I think that this was a very successful experiment. While none of my participants were able to go on a full media blackout, Kelly, Christian, and Willow were all able to have a takeaway from this.